Cyberpunk 2077 is a story-driven, role-playing game set in a dystopian California city known as Night City. You play as V, a mercenary who has a cybernetic implant in their brain. Along the way, V will make many business connections, friends, enemies, and even romantic partners. That will be the focus of this video. I will break down the 4 main romantic options in Cyberpunk 2077 using my totally scientific criteria, which includes the following. Character depth. Does the character have flaws, motivations, and an existence outside of the romance? Does the character grow and change over time? And is this growth independent of the protagonist or the romance? Next is the emotional depth of the romance. The romance fits naturally with the plot and shifts naturally with the story. The romance feels meaningful and deep, where maybe even it could feel like something is at risk and that the relationship requires emotional investment. Finally, the pacing of the relationship. The relationship doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like the relationship is just tacked into the story, but rather that it's part of the bigger story. Each of these criteria is going to be ranked out of 5 with a total of 15 points possible. I'm going to avoid main story spoilers as much as possible. Let's dive in. Up first is River Ward. River Ward is a Night City Police Department, or NCPD, detective who has gone a bit rogue recently as he navigates the moral struggle of being a detective in Night City. River can be romanced by a V who has a feminine body. For character depth, I gave River a 4 out of 5. River is passionately focused on justice and morality. Part of this is due to his own personal trauma and backstory, a situation that has made him feel failed by the NCPD. Despite his passion, River is also quite reasonable and reliable. This sets him apart from a lot of the other characters in this game who are much more hard-headed and unwilling to budge on their perspectives. Still, he can feel a bit boring to some players because of these traits. He doesn't have a massive amount of personality growth or personality change, and I think that's essentially what could feel boring to players. For the emotional depth of this romance, I gave it a 3 out of 5. This relationship overall feels a bit underdeveloped. River's romance has the shortest storyline of all of the romance options in this game, and that really shows. V and River basically have no romantic dialogue, and then suddenly their romance is progressing quite rapidly. River doesn't give V a lot of opportunity to tell him that they don't want a relationship.
Alright, V. You know why we're here, don't you? Say you do. Please, don't string me along.
I found the interactions between River and V to be a bit awkward. Maybe it was the voice acting, maybe it was the writing. Either way, the relationship moments that were supposed to hit romantically just hit a different way for me. For the pacing of this relationship, I gave it a 3 out of 5. This relationship is definitely underdeveloped, as I said, and it comes through in the pacing as well as with the emotional depth of the romance. River's story isn't really expanded upon quite as much. For example, I'd compare it to Judy's story here. Judy has a childhood connection to Laguna Bend, and that is explored in detail, while River's traumatic youth experience is brought up and then it sort of disappears, and it's even like dismissed by V in some of the dialogue, which feels sort of weird to have these two totally opposite things present in the same game. It's incomplete things like this that can just make you feel a little disappointed with this romance. Overall, I gave this romance a 10 out of 15. Next up is Kerry Eurodyne. Kerry is a former band member associated with Johnny Silverhand who continues to pursue his own fame and success while balancing his public image and his personality. Kerry is a romance option for a V with a masculine body type and voice. For character depth, I gave Kerry a 4 out of 5. Externally, Kerry is extremely rebellious and at times a bit erratic. His arc begins with him engaging in wild and dangerous behavior, but with time, it becomes clear that there's a lot more to him. Under the surface, Kerry is passionate, caring, and even quite vulnerable.
Cool. Feel like I fell asleep and woke up 50 years later. Back to work then. Take care, V. I'll be in touch.
These somewhat contrasting interior and exterior personality traits make him an interesting character to get to know, although his exterior may push some players away without them taking time to get to know him better. And that would be unfortunate for sure. He's an interesting character and he's a well done character. For the emotional depth of this relationship, I gave it a 3 out of 5. As their relationship develops, it becomes clear how important V is to Kerry. Kerry has a solid character arc depicting his growth towards finding his own identity and moving away from Johnny Silverhand and his past. Kerry and V have intense, sometimes chaotic experiences together that show the development of their relationship. V and Kerry can clearly be a good match for each other and enjoy spending time together. What really stood out to me, and truly has nothing to do with the romance itself, but rather I think the game development, is Kerry will at times refer to V as kid while they are very much involved in a romance with each other. This 100% throws off the vibes. There's no way around it. For the pacing of this relationship, I gave it a 3 out of 5. Kerry's romance is kind of a late game experience. It isn't throughout the game like Panam or Judy. That inevitably reduces the amount of time the relationship can develop and certainly impacts the pacing. Here, the limited screen time and development of the relationship can make things feel a bit underdeveloped and certainly not as natural of a fit as other romances in the game. Here's the spoiler alert. This is gonna go into in-game stuff, so if you want to, just skip ahead a little bit. Kerry was excluded from being able to leave Night City with V, and there are certainly some areas where this romance could be improved. Overall, I gave this romance a 10 out of 15. Next up is Judy Álvarez. Judy is a braindance editor who is affiliated with the Mox, a gang in Night City that is largely centered around working together to protect each other and stand up to their oppressors. Judy is creative and very technologically intelligent, making her a valuable companion to have. Judy can be romanced only by a V with a feminine body type and voice. For character depth, I gave Judy a 5 out of 5. Judy puts high value in independence and self-sufficiency. She doesn't like to fall back on others and takes time to build trust and learn that others do care to help her with nothing expected in return. When the player initially meets Judy, she can come off as a bit idealistic, a trait which can really be stifled by Night City. Judy goes through stages where her idealism leads her to make naive and even dangerous decisions, but through it all, she continues to evolve as a character and come out the other side more self-aware.
No, me in the deck chairs, me mulling over coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Something I avoid right now.
She's a complicated character who is on her own personal journey when V meets her, and she evolves largely due to her own actions, making her depth and growth independent of V. For the emotional depth of this romance, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Judy has a history of trauma that she is navigating as she enters her relationship with V. Their connection with each other, even discussing some of Judy's trauma and supporting each other, can feel really sweet and supportive. Judy's romance is quite romantic, with Judy being caring and emotionally close, including her sending thoughtful messages to V. On the flip side of this though, some players might find this relationship to be a bit too much. They might find it to be just a little overbearing. This is something that will certainly come down to player perception and player preference. For me, I didn't feel like it was too much. I didn't feel like it was over the top amount of contact, but I know that some of that really comes down to player preference. For the pacing of this relationship, I gave it a 4 out of 5. The romance with Judy is solid throughout, with developments that make sense and feel like natural developments. Overall though, players may feel that this relationship develops more quickly than other relationships in the game, and it may feel a bit rushed at the beginning or not quite as well paced as it could be. Overall, I gave this relationship a 13 out of 15. Finally, we have Panam Palmer. Panam is a member of a nomad clan, a powerful fighter, and a skilled driver. She's navigating conflict with her family and her nomad clan, which takes up her primary focus, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't have time to have these back. Panam can be romanced by a V with a masculine body type. For character development, I gave Panam a 5 out of 5. Panam is outwardly passionate and independent, even at times impulsive. On the other side, Panam is extremely loyal, caring, and she's also quite humorous. Panam feels like a complicated character with many sides to her, and it's only with time and progress and building trust that V can really get to know her completely. For the emotional depth of this relationship, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Panam and V have chemistry. There's no way around it. I know that there aren't technically canon relationships in this game, but this one certainly feels like it got more work and attention than most of the other relationships. A brief diversion here, but I wanted to mention that I find it interesting that Panam's romance, which is the only main romance with a character with a feminine body type that is available to a V with a masculine body type, is so much better developed than River's romance, which is the only romance with a masculine body type that's available to a V with a feminine body type. It's interesting to me that these romances received such different attention. Back to Panam's relationship. Panam's relationship develops over time, and the development really feels like a natural progression. Panam is loyal and loving to V, which feels consistent with her character, and to some players may really demonstrate to them her dedication to their V.
Careful, or I'll start believing that. You won't be able to get rid of me.
The only downside to this relationship, at least when it comes to emotional depth, some players may feel like she speaks down to V, and that may upset them. Personally, I didn't have any issues with that. I felt like Panam knew what she was talking about, so I mean, if she's telling me to do something, she probably knows better than me. For the pacing of this relationship, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Panam's relationship is well paced throughout the game. Panam plays an important role in the story, whether romanced or not, which ensures that she's present regularly in the story. You see a lot of her. You will interact with her a lot. What may disappoint players is the lack of additional content available for her relationship. For example, there's no additional side quests. Overall, I gave this relationship a 13 out of 15. I wonder if maybe these romances were not initially in the game from the jump and they were kind of added in. I think it would explain why there's issues with dialogue, like with Kerry's dialogue. I think it would explain why there's so little content. I think it would explain why River's romance is so short and lacking so much content. I haven't read too much about what specifically the development of the romance options looked like for this game, but I do know overall Cyberpunk was pretty chaotic development. We're all aware of that. And so I'm interested in the way that it maybe seems to have come through in romance options. What was your experience with these romances? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, who your favorite romance options are in Cyberpunk 2077, and of course, in any other games that you would like to talk about. If you like more content like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.